Thank you for having me. Of course, you guys know Lori and Terry are the best, so you're very lucky to have them. Um, so yeah, they asked me to come on here today, and we're going to talk about CMAs or pricing to sell, making sure that we're getting our homes priced correctly. So I don't know. I guess there's nothing else we have to deal with before, so let's just jump into it. Um, and I'm actually just messing with my sharing real quick, so that it's not a huge mess. Let's see. But how many of you, do any of you feel like you're already pre-pricing homes? Are you just trying to get the feel for it now? Where are you guys at? Anyone feel super confident? No? Dang, okay. Well, we're gonna start from scratch then. That's okay. That's what the whole point is. So all right. Feel free to ask questions as we go through. I'm going to go pretty fast because this is a very tactical thing. I'm going to show you exactly how to do it. We do have videos that are also kind of the same sort of walkthrough. I know there's a short video and a long video that you can kind of use to actually click through as you're doing CMAs. So I checked earlier this week actually, and they're still there. So you are you'll have obviously you have recordings of this class, but there's also a really short one that's on the video library where you can just go through and it'll help you click through. So use this as a way to kind of soak in the information, and then you'll have plenty of support to kind of walk you through as you do your own CMAs. And the only way to get good at them is just to practice them. And everyone's going to do them a little bit different. We all kind of share stuff like that. So if I'm pricing a house and then I'm not feeling super good about it, I will have Terry check it or Lori check it or both or someone else in our office. But there's not one way to do it. There's a lot of different ways, and you kind of have to be open to that a little bit. There's a lot of different ways to find value. So let's go ahead and jump in. We need to start. Step number one of a CMA is going to be you have to identify the subject property. So that just means you've got to find out, okay, what does the house that we're pricing have to work with? Because if we don't have that, we can't really run it. I'm actually going to, let me pull up this address real quick. I'm actually going to run a CMA on this property with you live. Let me grab it. Sorry, I should have grabbed it before, but I could get us really close. Okay, there we go. All right, so we're gonna run some pricing on this property. This is the house number is 7789, and the street is Sycamore Drive. So I don't know how familiar you guys are with the MLS. Maybe just to back it up a little, MLS, go to search residential full. That's going to get you to this page. This is kind of the one that most of us realtors are on all the time. So it has so many detailed options for you to sort through houses. So what we first need to do is find the house that we're actually going to price. And so I'm going to start by just putting in the house number, putting in the street name, and then let's see if there's any matches. No, there are not any matches. That probably means we may not actually do this one, to be honest with you. Let me make sure. Oh, active is checked. We're not, obviously, when you're pricing a home, it's not going to have been listed on the MLS, right? Because you're probably pricing it so you can list it. So it's not currently listed. So if you get rid of active, that gives us three matches here. Is everyone with me so far? Does that sound really complicated? Okay, it came out kind of weird, but we'll figure it out. So okay, we put in the house number and the street name, and then there's three matches. You go to view results here, and you find the house. And it is in Eagle Mountain, so this is the one. Now there's three different MLS listings here. We're gonna do the one that's the most recent, which was in 2017. So we're gonna pull that one up. And I usually download the PDF just so that I have it handy. So I'll download the PDF and then open it. That way I can just kind of toggle between that and as I'm going through stuff. Now I've got that listing. I'm going to open it here and we'll start looking at the details. So this house is a two-story home. It was built in 2008, has a two-car garage, 0.16 acre, 2650 square feet, 5 beds, two, 3.5 baths, I would say. And then, it's got laundry on the second floor. I don't know what else we'd really need to know about that. I mean, that's really your basics. You do want to look and see if the basement is finished. It is on this one. So that pretty much gives us everything that we need to know because now we need to start comparing it. And step two is find comparable properties. And that's where the real work begins. So this tells us what the house currently has. Now we got to go find some things to compare it to. Now, the other situation is let's say that this house has never been listed before. Why do you think it would happen that a house had never been listed before on the MLS? Any ideas?
New
No.
build.
Super
Okay.
old.
Oh, Greg.
Yeah. Old.
Super old could be a reason. Anything else?
I was saying that
All right.
potentially they haven't listed it. It's brand spanking new. That could be wrong.
Yep. Totally. Yep. I mean, if it's brand new, never been sold, definitely not going to be on the MLS. It could also be a house that was brand new. It was built brand new, but it was sold off of the MLS. Very common that a builder would just sell it, without putting it on the MLS because they have their own model home. Um, they have their own marketing budget stuff, and they can without an agent, right? So, or even if they sell it with an agent, but it doesn't get reported to the MLS. So that's very common. And then old definitely could be an option. Like if it's this has information back to about 1995-ish, 98, I don't know, somewhere in there. And so if it was prior to that, it's probably not going to show up on here. So either it's never been sold before, or it's been sold way long ago, or it was passed through, from family members or something like that. But anyways, not every house is going to pop up like this. If it doesn't, there's some other. Primarily, go to tax data search. That's where you can find what the tax records have for the house, and that can help you piece together what is the square footage, what are the bedrooms and bathrooms and acreage and whatnot. So that's kind of a different thing. Reach out if you need any help with that. If you've got a property that you can't find and you can't figure out, okay, how many square feet does it have, bedrooms, bathrooms, whatever, and we can help you with that. So, anyways, but this one luckily had old MLS numbers, so we're just going to use that. So this is now our subject property, and we need to find some comparables. First thing I'm going to do is steal the MLS number from the subject property, and then go back into the MLS. Going to hit refine search right here, and then clear criteria. We want to get rid of all the criteria that we put in before, and now we're going to find some comps. So if you go into view map, this is where I like to start. Go into view map. Go to radius, which is this round one with the 4 dots. On the right side, it says set radius/location. I'm going to paste that MLS number from the subject property. And then I typically like to do about a half-mile radius and then just hit set criteria. And there we've got that whole neighborhood right there. And then hide map. That's going to get rid of the map so we can dial it in more. So then the first thing we're going to want to find are some solds. Solds are going to give us the best indication of value because they've already sold. A buyer agreed to pay it. A seller agreed to accept it. Probably an appraiser agreed that that was the value of the house. So we're pretty good. The first thing it's going to do when you choose sold as a status on here, it's going to turn the sold date to a year back. So it goes back to May 22nd of 24. That's a little too far. Like we're not going to want anything back that far. So we're going to go back about somewhere between 90 and 180 days, 3 to 6 months. I'm going to go try 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm just going to go to the beginning of the year, which makes sense. Anything this year is probably pretty, but that went back to 24. So, because it was already on 2024. So I'm going to go back to January of 25. That gave us 5 listings. Not a whole lot, but we might just be a little limited on solds. Um, you could see, I mean, it's a little more spread out there in Eagle Mountain, so it's possible that that's just what we have to deal with. I'm going to change the property type to single family in Salt Lake or any of the surrounding areas. You're not going to want to compare with anything other than single family, of course. That didn't limit our options, so we're good there. And then let's actually just look. I'm going to hit view results and let's see what these comps look like. So we've got, I'm going to select all of these and go to brief report because I think it's an easier way to look at it. You can see these are all solds. They are, this one's a Rambler, a two-story, two-story, two-story. So we got 3 2 stories. One of these has a 3-car garage. I can see that. And garage is this number. You kind of get used to the way that this brief report works. It's got the garage is just listed right there. So if I look at the 2 stories, there's 3 of them. 2 of them have 2-car garages, so that's good because ours does too. One of them has a 3-car garage. That makes it a little, pushes it a little bit on value, but so that may not be the best comp. It may not be for other reasons too. But anyways, those are kind of our solds there. I'm gonna try one other thing. I'm gonna go back to this map and I'm gonna see if there's anything else. If I can go out anymore. I don't really think I can because if you know anything about Eagle Mountain, like I don't want to come over here. This is like the ranches area, and then this is the city center area ish. Yeah, this is the city center area. And so I kind of want to, I don't really want to get either of those. This would be probably a little more, well, anyways, I just want to get pretty close. I might want to try to include these streets though, even though I think they're just new construction. But I'm going to do this and maybe just try to get all of that. Let's see how that goes. It brought in a few more, I think, over here. I could, yeah, because now we have 13. Okay, so it brought in some more. We'll see if they're usable or not. They may not be. Let's go back to view results. We got 13 matches, which is probably better. That's probably a better amount. When we go to this brief report, we'll see though, if they're all new construction, it's probably not going to help us that much. This is the year built right here. So what I'm actually going to do, I'm going to refine the search. And I'm going to do only houses that have 2-car garages. So on garage capacity, I'm going to say I only want 2. I just don't really want to have to compare to 3rd-car garages. They're a little different. And then I'm also going to do year built. I need it to be built. It doesn't have to be the same year. Like this was built in '08. I'm going to say even up till 2020 would be anything 2020 and before is not really new construction anymore. That still sticks us with these 2. So going out on the map really didn't help us at all. Leaves us with these 2. I vote that we do the best we can with these 2. We're gonna see how that goes because we really don't have a ton of comparables right here. This one is almost 4,000 square feet. So, and that's a Rambler. I don't think that's gonna work super well. Um, Let's see what we can do. You can also hit search criteria right here. And this will say what criteria you have in here now. So what's weeding it out is the age or how long back it was. I might go back a little further, like closer to a full 6 months. It's got to be single family. It's got to be a 2-car garage, and it can't be newer than 2020. Let's try to go back a couple months. Let's go back to like November. This is not ideal, but I'm just gonna see if we can get any extra. Now we're up to 5. Let's see. Let's see how these ones look. So, you guys able to follow me on this? Sound too crazy or it's manageable? Hopefully you can follow it. So this, I'm gonna try to get rid of the Ramblers. So I'm gonna choose style of 2-story. Thinking about it. This is on my laptop and it's not, for whatever reason, it's being slow. Um, okay. So these are going to be two stories. Let's look at agent full report is kind of like a full MLS listing. So we've got this one. This one was built in 2018, so it's newer than ours, but it's not brand new. It's 3150 square feet. Remember, ours is about 2600 square feet. This one does have a finished basement and a two-car garage. So this one's actually pretty similar. They both have 0.16 acre lots. The only thing is this one is newer. Whether it's nicer is probably a little subjective because it just depends if one of them's nice and clean and the other one is, more of a mess or whatever. But on paper, it's pretty similar, but it's probably a little bit more expensive because it's brand or not is it's much newer. This one, kind of same story, 2,500 square feet. It does have the finished basement. It does have the same two-car garage. This is on a slightly smaller lot, but it seems like still an okay lot. Um, that one's probably reasonable too. This one's much more similar. Similar square footage, similar year built, similar square footage, similar acreage, similar year built. Um, the finished basement is there, so we're good. That one's more similar. You can tell this one's a more similar house to the other one, right? So this one's much more similar, just a more similar house. So anyways, and then we've got this one also built in '08 on a 0.14 acre, 2,540 square feet. That one also has a finished basement. Anything that's like 75% or more is like going to be considered a fully finished basement. So, um, anyways, this is a little different style of house, I think. Let's see if it's no, it's a true two-story. Okay. Kind of looks like a multi-level, but it's actually a two-story. Um, okay. So I would actually say all of these are okay. These bottom two are definitely the best. The only problem, this one sold in November. This one sold in January. So the two best ones are back then. We've got one in December, but this one is one of the newer ones as well. And this one was sold in November. So I don't know. I think we're gonna lean in pretty hard on these two then. But I do feel a little bit better about it that we added this one. I'm just gonna go back to refine search and I think we'll just get rid of we're gonna do year bill to up to like 2015 and get rid of those. That's just going to leave us with the two that we like. So these are the ones. Now you've got to write this down. I'm going to put it on the notepad on my computer just so it's easy to type in and whatnot. That's the subject property. So we do need that. And then I'm just going to type in the out. So I'm going to go back to refine search. So now we've got our solds. Now we're going to go to our pendings. I'm gonna try to. hmm, Maybe I don't dare switch my internet. I'll probably lose you guys. Um. Okay, we'll just keep it. So I'm gonna get rid of the sold status and go to backup and under contract. Now, backups and under contracts are the same. They're both under contract. Do you guys know that? You're familiar with that? So backups and under contracts are the same. They're both under contract. They're both pending. A backup one is just still showing, allowing showings, and they're to collect a backup offer. So they're the same thing. There's only one, but I do have it pretty dialed in right now. So let's see if we can get rid of like the year built. I'm gonna get when it comes to pendings, we're gonna just kind of carry it down a little bit. We we still really only want 2 stories. I really don't want anything other than a 2-car garage. It's got to be single family, of course. All right, we've got 3. Let's see how they look. Um, let's see what we've got. We've got this one, which is under contract. It's 3,400 square feet, so it's a fair amount larger. It's on a bigger lot, like substantially bigger lot, like 3x. Um, not quite 3x, but close enough. Um, then we've got this one, Seabiscuit Road. This one is 2020, so it's pretty new. It's on similar acreage, similar size. It is larger. It does have the finished basement. So that one's something to consider. And then we've got this one, which is brand new. Um, let's see when it went under contract. It went under contract in May. So that's actually not too bad. Let's see if it's finished. Um, I think this one's probably finished. I could be wrong. I mean, that's one thing for you guys to learn to like when they say under construction, that just means exactly what it says. Like it's under construction. So it at least when they put the listing in, it wasn't done, but it was in process. Now, where exactly it is, there's not a spot for them to put that. They could put it potentially in the agent remarks. Uh, I mean, this says the home is shown by appointment only, so I can't help but think it's probably finished. If you ever don't know, you can just reach out to them and say, "Hey, is that ready?" Now, if you're the listing agent, make sure you change that to say completed once it's done. But at any rate, this one's a brand new home. It's 2,400 square feet. It's a little different because it's a patio. You can see it doesn't have any basement square footage. It's more maybe patio home isn't the right word, but it's a slab home. There's not a basement on it. So this one's probably different enough that we don't want to give it too much weight. Um, these two would be okay. That one wouldn't really be okay. Let's say this one, that one's just too big. It's got too much acreage, too much square footage. I think probably this one's better. Um, so I'm gonna take that one and I'm gonna add it to our comparables. And let's see if I can tweak else to get us more. We could try, we could try the garage situation and just see what that gives us. Like if we go to stuff that has a little bit bigger garage, let's see if there's something similar or not. This one would be added because that's a 3rd car garage, and it looks like this one would be added because it's a 3rd car garage. Let's open both of those. See how those look. So this one is not brand new, but pretty new. It's on a bigger lot. Not going to help a lot. And it may be brand new, I guess. I almost think this might be an error because it looks like it was entered on in 2023 and it's still showing under contract. So either it took a really long time to build or maybe they lost track of it or something like that. So that one's out. This one built in 2018, so it's not brand new, but it is newer. And then the acreage is bigger. The 3rd car garage, the square footage is pretty similar. So this one is not all that similar, but I'm actually going to use it to help with value here. And last but not least, I'm going to go back here. I'm just going to look at actives. If I change this to actives, there are 10 actives. I just can't process that many, so I'm going to try to get you 7. Let's see if any of them are not new construction. Gonna go to brief report again because there's just some 20 built in 25, built in 23, built in 2020, and that one has a 0.59 acre lot. Like that's not helping us at all. This one is built in 2025 with the 0.13 acre. That's not, these brand new ones aren't going to help much. Now, we do have one on Ficus Way that's active. Now, this one, similar square footage, similar built, similar acreage, 100% finished basement. This one might be a little more helpful for us. And then we've got this one, looks kind of small. That one looks like, oh, that's brand new too. Yeah, honestly, we're gonna be making some pricing recommendations based on very limited info. Um, but I am gonna include this one. This is a good active listing. So I'll add it here. All right. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just take all of these MLS numbers and I'm gonna go up here. I'm going to delete out our criteria. You guys following me okay? It's still connected. We still good? Okay. Signs of life. I like it. Okay, so all right. So now that we go, I should slow down. Search MLS right here. Click on that. I'm gonna paste those MLS numbers in there and then just hit search. This is probably the easiest way. Well, I think it's the easiest way to get all of these put kind of in one spot. I'm gonna do it in a brief report. And then I'm going to list it based on its status. So status. That way it's going to put the solds together, it's going to put the pendings together, and then the actives together. So, and then I'm going to do the secondary is going to be sold price, I think, for a couple reasons. Primarily, I'm going to flip it though. Yeah, I'm going to flip it so it's sold price lowest to highest. That way it's going to put the original one. Because remember when I was writing them on the notepad? Oh, shoot. Okay. When I was writing them on here, this was the original. This was the previous listing. So now I have that previous listing here right there. And then the rest of these are all those recent solds, pendings, and actives that we already looked up together. So anyways, you go through here. So when I look at these solds, we got these two solds, 2,540 square feet, 2,694 square feet. So those are fine. They're within the range of this one. Acreage, they're really right around the same 0.14, 0.14, 0.16. They've got two-car garages, so there really aren't any adjustments we're making so far. Their basements are finished, and it doesn't matter if it's 85 or 90 or 100 or whatever. That's all good. This does have one extra bedroom. That's not really a good or a bad thing. It's just a thing. Once you get up into like 4, 5, 6 bedrooms, doesn't matter as much. It depends how the house flows. Like obviously one might have a bedroom count, but it might feel more choppy and more cut up. The other one might have a lower bedroom count, but it's got big, wide open entertainment spaces. Different buyers for each house, but it's not going to matter too much. That's a little different if say you go from a studio apartment downtown to a one bedroom, that's a huge upgrade, right? Say you go from a one bedroom apartment to a two-bedroom apartment, that's a huge difference. And when I say apartment, I mean condo, but you go from a one bed to a two-bed condo, big difference. You go from two beds to three beds, it's still a pretty big jump because the person who's going to buy it is different. But then once you get into 4, 5, 6, 7 bedrooms, it kind of isn't it's not a huge deal. It's mostly square footage and does it have enough bedrooms for the average family? So anyways, okay, these two, we really don't have to compare that much. They're basically the same house. Now, this one was sold in November, this one was sold in January. This one was sold for 495. This one sold for 480. Don't be confused by the pricing, because if you look at this one right here is the list price. You can tell if you go right here, it says list price. This one says sold price. But just know Like those can change. Like this, the list price and the sold price is the same, but up here, the list price is a little bit higher than the sold price, which is normal. That's not a problem. And if you want to know how many concessions they put on it, you can click it. Sorry, I don't know. It's just being slow today, but so it's 6,500 concessions. So it originally was listed at 515. You can click on this history button too. Originally was listed at 515. They dropped to 499, then they dropped it to 485, and only 3 days later, so they dropped it to 485 on the 22nd, and then only 3 days later it went under contract. So do you think the price reduction worked in their case? Totally worked, right? So and then it went turned to sold on November 13th. So anyways, that's how you can kind of see what the history is. But this one ended up selling at 480 with 6,500 in concessions. So anyways, those two help a lot. Now if we were just pricing this based on those two, we would probably say, I mean, you're somewhere between what you want to do is bracket. Bracket really means you want to find a house that was sold that was is better than yours and a house that was sold that's worse than yours. I'm going to be honest with you. In this example, we don't really have that. I think we have two houses that are both very similar to the one that we're listing, which is good, which is nice. But I would say we're almost going to create our own little bracket between 480 and 495. That's kind of where we're going to be. Now, we're actually pricing this for a listing. You're going to want to really deep dive and go through every photo on here and try to figure out what's the condition here. Like what level is the condition here? You can see it's got older cabinets, but maybe it has a new countertop. I can't tell. It might be stone or it might be solid surface. You don't really know. It looks pretty nice to me. Honestly, it's probably in pretty good shape. The bathroom's going to be dated, but it's in pretty good shape. This tile is probably a giveaway, or maybe it's not. I don't know. But anyways, we want to really dig into condition, and then you're gonna look at yours and say, hey, based on the one that we're listing, is this house nicer or is the one we're listing nicer, right? Let's say that it's pretty similar. I would say they're probably pretty similar condition. I do know the house. So then let's look at this one. Again, they sold for very similar prices. Let's see how this one compares in condition. This one did sell for mold about 2 months later. Let's see how it looks. This one honestly also looks pretty nice. It looks like the kitchen probably had a remodel. Um, Kind of a unique remodel because they didn't end up putting a island back in. They did more of like the eat-in kitchen sort of thing, which is fine. Um, Yeah. So this one's pretty nice, but it does have some, it's been updated for sure. Not saying it's perfect, but it does have some nice updates in it. So this one, it kind of makes sense why you can see the backyard has like the curbing. It's a nice, like defined backyard. Um, Looks pretty good. Like I think they did a pretty good job on that one. It makes sense why this one sold for more than the other one, especially where the market's so flat. The market didn't bump up the cost of this one up to 495 in those couple months. That's just not how it went. This one was a little bit nicer, so it sold for more. And then, so based on that, if our house is on the nicer side, we might go to 495. If it's not quite as nice, we might go to 480. If it's pretty bad, we might go below that. But anyways, that's just if we priced it based on those two. Now we have more info, luckily. So then we've got these two. Now these are both newer. They're under contract now, which means the nice thing is we know that they have a buyer who wants them in today's market around that price. We don't know which actual price they're under contract for. It only shows us the list price. And we also don't know whether it's going to close and at which price it's going to end up at. But we do know a house that was brand new with bigger acreage. Both of these are not brand new. Sorry, newer with bigger acreage. One of them has a third car garage, one of them has a two-car garage. This one has, let's look at this one, actually. So, because this one has a third car garage, it's quite a bit different, but it also has an unfinished basement. That's going to require a lot of adjusting. So honestly, we're probably going to lean more on this one. Similar square footage, newer build, bigger acreage. It does have a finished basement. This one's under contract at 580. Now, we don't know exactly what it's under contract for, but you can look at the history and it'll tell you a lot. So this one was active. Um, it was active on 416. They did a price reduction of $10,000 on May 1st, and they were under contract by May 9th. That's pretty quick, don't you think? Especially in this market, like that's not bad. They dropped the price and they were under contract within 8 days. That's pretty good. So they probably are not far off of this, maybe 575, something like that. So let's say this one went for 575 with that finished basement and it's bigger. It's got, it's newer. It's kind of better in every way. So when we look at this, we're like, okay, that one's going for 580. We're definitely not going to get that much, right? And then that really doesn't help us a ton because we already knew that we were going to be somewhere between like 480 and 495. So it doesn't do us a ton of good because we already knew we were going to get less than this. And that just kind of confirms it, right? And then one that might help us a little bit more is this active right here. So it's not going to tell us anything we didn't already know. It's just saying, okay, this one, which is very similar to ours, 2,700 square feet, two-car garage, 0.14 acres, built in 2006 with a finished basement. This one is under contract, or this one is active, so it doesn't have a buyer yet. You can look at it. It's pretty similar to the house we're going to be listing. This one might have a little extra on the countertops. Some shiplap worse, right? Probably all seen some good shiplap jobs and bad ones. But this one looks like it has a salon in the basement. That's not changing the value too much, but it is nice. You could put a wet bar in there if you wanted. So this one looks pretty good. It's got a nice backyard and whatnot. So, anyways, this one is listed at 540 and it's not sold. Based on what we've looked at, do you think it's going to be sold at 540? You guys think it's going to be sold at 540 or no?
Maybe 535, 530 maybe. Or it could be.
Yeah. Yeah, it could be. We really don't know what it's going to go for, but when you look at these other houses, that one sold in November, one sold in January, and they're so similar in square footage and everything else. I have a hard time seeing that 540 is going to go at that price, to be honest with you. And it could prove me wrong. And maybe it's really nice inside or something. But the honest truth, the market's been very flat. And I just don't think that the price has changed that much since um I just don't think the price has changed that much since January of 24. Um so if it were me, I would be listing, I definitely wouldn't be listing over 500 unless it was fully remodeled. I might consider it a push even 525 if it's fully remodeled, perfect and everything. 525 probably like the top. And I don't think this really is looking remodeled. I think this one probably it's okay, but I don't think it's any better than these other two that sold in November and January. So, in my opinion, honestly, I think it's probably going to sell for more like 500. Um, we typically will price on the bridge. So let's say that we go based on all of this. We're typically going to price on the bridge, which just means you want to be on both sides of it. So, like, let's say we're going to be pricing around 500, whether that's 505 or 495 or whatever. Typically, we'll price 100K mark if we can. So, if we're doing 495 or 505, let's stick to five. And the reason why is because people that are looking 450 to 500, your house is gonna pop up in their search. People looking from 5 to 550, your house is gonna show up in their search too. So it bridges the gap between both of those price ranges that are very cool. So price on the dot. Now, that's not always possible because you can see what other houses have gone for, and maybe they've all gone, maybe it's closer to 525. Um, but try to go on a big, on like kind of a hard number where if you're anywhere near a hard number where buyers are either going to go up or down from there, try to do it right on that number so it gets included in more searches. So it's just kind of from a tech lens, just the way people search is usually going to be in 50,000 or $100,000. Under like 800, they're searching in $50,000 increments. And then probably over 800, they're now searching in $100,000 increments, if that makes sense. Um, just because there's a little bit more range usually. So does that make sense on the pricing? Kind of why we price it that way? Hopefully so. Hopefully so. So, anyways, picking your comps is the most important part because remember, we know these two are way more similar to the house than these two. This one's pretty dang similar to the house. We just don't know what it's going to sell for. Now, if you're going to a listing appointment today, make sure that they know, hey, we're going to keep a close eye on this. We don't think it's going to sell because the numbers don't support it. But if it does, then we're going to change our answer to you. As it sits now, I'm going to say it's for that house to sell or for the one that we're listing to sell. Um, and in this market, you want to be at market price, at market value, or below. Like I would be more likely to come down from where that market price is than pushing it up. If that makes sense. Um, Anyways, I would say these are probably your best comps. Are they perfect? No, we don't always have the perfect comps, but I think they're pretty dang good. So, anyways, let me show you really quick how we like to put these together. Any questions on how we pulled these comps or how we chose them or whatever? You guys have any questions on that before I kind of switch gears? No? Okay. All right. I'm going to go to utahrealestate.com. That's just the homepage, basically. Go to Cloud CMA, just right on the left side there. And this step 3, so step 1, identify the subject property. If it's got an old MLS number, that's super easy. If it doesn't, because it's not been listed on the MLS before, again, you have to go through tax data records and find the info. If you ever need help with that, it can be a little bit, if you're not used to looking at those, it can be harder to figure out, but it can always help you. And then step 2 is going to be to find the right comparables. So locate comparable properties. And then step 3 is going to be to present them to your client. And so I'll show you how we do that. So we go in here, let's go to create new report. Again, this is called Cloud CMA. This is just one of the ways to do it, but we think it looks really good and we like it. Okay, title, you're usually going to put their last name, address. I'm going to grab that real quick. 7789 North. 7789 North Sycamore Road. It should pull it up and start filling it in. It's probably not going to be all that accurate because it's just pulling mostly from the county, I believe. And the county doesn't have accurate info on it. So five bedrooms, 2 full baths, a 3/4 bath, and then a half bath. I'm gonna call that 3.5 baths. So 5, 3.5. And then square footage, this is 1845, but we know it's actually 2652. So I'm going to put that in here. Now, does it matter that much what's in here? Not really, except for that if you go to a seller's house and you have the wrong info here, even though it wasn't your fault, it auto-populated it and whatever. If you have the wrong info there, it's going to make them question whether you know about their house or not. So you just want to avoid any drama. I also take out lot size because in other places, the lot size goes by square footage, and in Cloud CMA, it goes by square footage. So the square feet of the lot rather than where we usually go by, which is like the 0.16 acre. So I just get rid of that to avoid complications. I'm going to get rid of the tax amount because I'm sure it's old. And then year built 2008. You could say it has a 2-car garage if you wanted. Doesn't have to be fully filled out. But anyways, that's the setup. You can also, if I had a good picture, we could steal this picture and put it right on the front. You can add a cover photo right there. I don't think this picture is all that attractive, so I'm probably not going to. Um, Anyways, that's kind of how you set that up. And then down here it says, do you want to search based on listings that you already pulled? Yes, we do. I'm going to put in here all of the comps that we used. I'm putting those MLS numbers in here. So this is why I had you kind of save it. Now, this other side is called quick and dirty. And basically this just means it's going to pull the comps for you. So you can just say automatically find listings near the subject property, get at least X amount, only go back a certain year. You can change the criteria. This is just more difficult. Imagine like you see all the info we have in the MLS. It's going to be much more accurate if we go hand pick them through the MLS than if you have this just auto pick. So that's why I like to hand pick my comps and then hit fetch listings down here. And that's going to pull it up. This is just kind of a nice way to display it. So pulls up all the properties. Now, one note real quick, this asks you to set the price. So it says, hey, what price do you want it to be? What price are you going to it is. I'm not going to ever fill that in really because I don't appointment and say, hey, your house is worth 500. Let's go ahead and list it. That's not how you want to do it. And one of the problems is, let's say that we say it's worth 500 and we put that in the spot here, 500K. And then we print this, we go there, tell them everything. They're talking to other realtors. What happens if another realtor tells them what happens if another realtor says, hey, your house is worth 525? What do you think is going to happen?
They're probably going to go with the other realtor.
Yeah, they're probably going to go with the other realtor, right? So that's why we don't just give it a price. Not here to like stamp it and say, hey, this is what your house is worth, take it or leave it. We want them to come to we want them to understand why we're pricing the way we are. It's not our job to price it. They get to choose the price, but we need to give them all the info. So some agents, when they go to, you'll tell you, hey, when you do your listing consultation, the first question you ask is, hey, how much do you want to get for it? Very little information about what the homes around them is sold for. And then you're just like, hey, what do you want? It really doesn't matter that much what they want. What they're hiring you for is for you to tell them what it's actually worth. They want to know. And so ask them how much they want to get for it. It's kind of irrelevant. So what we do is we go through the data. Now, what this looks like, it's hard to show on Zoom, but we print out all of those properties. And again, I can kind of I'll show you how they look. So these are all the properties. I'm going to go to customize report and I'll show you. It actually looks pretty good once it's done. I should have deleted that 500K because we don't put a certain dollar amount in there. But so don't put a dollar amount in there. Then go to customize. You can pick whichever pages you want. Like I've totally customized this. Oh wow, this is the wrong account. But this doesn't have my settings, right? I do have 2 Cloud CMA accounts, but basically these are all different pages of your your CMA. So you can have one that explains like what is a CMA. You can have that printed out as part of it. You can do it'll show the comparable property statistics, which is good. Anyways, you can customize how it looks. I can show you how mine actually looks. This one has basically all the options that it normally comes with. The problem with that is just like you'll have blank pages, like a marketing action plan. You can fill it out and have it set up. It's just going to be like the most bland marketing program you could imagine. So you're not going to really want to show sellers that. You're also not going to want to probably show them the average price per square foot because no real estate pro is going to make decisions based on price per square foot. Sometimes the public might look at price per square foot, but if you think about it, price per square foot doesn't take into account condition, acreage, like that's it. It doesn't take in either of those things, and those are two huge things. Location, it just doesn't take in a lot of that. So you're not going to want to include that in here. So you'll want to trim this down a little bit. But anyways, once you go into publish report, it's you all the properties. It's going to have all the details. It's going to have pictures and everything that you can go through with your seller. And what that looks like is you say, hey, here's what your house has. Okay, your house has 5 bedrooms, 2,600 square feet. It's got a 2-car garage. It's got a finished basement. That's what your house has. And then you start going through what the other homes have. So you say, okay, this one sold for 480. This one is very similar to yours, very similar in square footage, very similar in the garage, the acreage, all that stuff. And you'll say that one sold for 480. Then you go to the next one. This one sold for 495. This one was 2,500 square feet. It had 4 beds. It had whatever. You're going to kind of lay out the details for them and show them what they sold for, kind of one by one. So you're going to say, okay, this one sold for 480. You can look at the pictures. I mean, it looks pretty nice, right? I mean, I'm sure it shows worse in person, but it looks pretty good. And so that way, when they, we really like our house because, the yard look nice, you can be like, yeah, their yard looks pretty nice too. So we're kind of comparing apples to apples. Or, they might say, oh, my kitchen looks so much better that I think ours should be more. And then you can show, oh yeah, yours does look better than that one, or no, yours looks worse than that one, So you can kind of compare and contrast. But you're going to go through all of these with them, show them the data, show them the pictures. I love the way they do the pictures here because it shows 12 on a page, or yeah, 12 on a page, which gives you a good idea of the house, but it doesn't cost a gazillion dollars and you don't have to cut down all the rainforest to be able to print it. Like it's one page that is full of pictures to give you a good idea. Anyways, you go through all of those, and then once you've kind of laid them all out, you say, okay, this one sold for this much, this one sold for this much, this one sold for that much. Where do you think your house fits? And when you ask them that question, they're usually going to get pretty dang close, especially if you can kind of bracket it, have something that's a little better than theirs at a certain price, a little worse than theirs at a different price, and say they'll typically kind of find the middle there and say, oh, I think mine kind of is right in here. It's nicer than that one, but it's worse than this one. I think this is where it should be. So does that make sense? Any questions on that process? I'm going to go into like two other quick things if you're good with all that. Okay. One thing. This would not be, you don't want to price a house based just process that we just did. There were not a lot of comps. I think you'd want to go into maybe some of the bordering neighborhoods, find something that's a little more similar that's maybe under contract or yeah, preferably that's under contract. See if you can find just a couple more. We would not list a house based on this. If we did, it would be about 500, but this would not make me feel warm and fuzzy enough about the situation that I would just go listed at 500,000 for a couple reasons. One, we didn't have a lot of comps. The other, I really think it's important for you to sleep on it. So you figure out pricing. Okay, we think it's worth about 500, and then sleep on it. And then tomorrow you're going to look at it again. And you're going to pull it up and try to look for some other comps because at least for me, I'm going to be in a different headspace. I'm going to be thinking a little differently. I'll even wake up in the middle of the night and I'm like, oh, like who cares? You like I'll think like, oh, I was really looking for stuff that was just right there, but really there's a neighborhood next to it that's pretty dang similar. Why don't we see what those ones have gone for and we can kind of calculate that into it as well. Or whatever it is, like you can kind of tweak it, but you're not just going to want to do a CMA and price it and throw it on the market and be done. It's a little bit of a process. You probably are going to want other people to verify it, have someone else see what they get, and then compare the two. And you're probably not going to get the same dollar amount as someone else because everyone's going to see different things. So then I'll run one and ours won't match. And then I'll be like, oh, well, I think this comp is better for this reason. It's more similar, it's whatever. And, you know, or you might say, hey, I don't think you took into account this one. I think this one really validates the price closer to this. So you just kind of, it's more of an art than a science, and it takes time and it's a little bit of a process. That's probably the best I could give you. There's one other thing that I have been using a lot lately. This is kind of a bonus. It's not necessarily CMA related, but it's pretty dang CMA related. But let's go to, I'm gonna go to stats. So go to stats on the MLS stats, and then, oh, it's not liking this. Let's try that. Okay. Home sales graphs. I've gotten a lot more comfortable on this over the last little bit. This basically is a way to pull stats. So stats, home sale graphs, go here. I'm going to go to only single family, and I'm going to go to Eagle Mountain. Eagle Mountain. And this is going back to 2020. That might be a little more than necessary. Let's try. But 2020 is going to show a good story. So I'm going to hit view results. Again, this is just based on single family in Eagle Mountain. Maybe I'm going to get rid of year built over 2020, something like that. And let's see, view results. And this is going to give us some cool information. And the reason why I say this is you kind of want to see, like, let's say, okay, fourth quarter, this has a lot of stuff. I'm just going to get rid of them and show median sold. So you can just click off these ones. If you go to, let's say the fourth quarter, which was when those two that we were looking at sold, were in, well, one sold in November, one sold in January. So you could see this one sold. The average, this is the median sold price in Eagle Mountain in the fourth quarter of last year was 501. And then if you look at the first quarter of this year, it was 516, aka it went up slightly. It went up by about $15,000. So now we look at our comps there. Now, if you think that, I don't want this to get too abstract, but basically, let's say that you decide that these houses are both very similar. This one and this one are very similar houses, very similar condition. One sold 2 months later, and the price had gone up 15,000, which follows the market because one sold for 480, one sold for 495. You could say, hey, that kind of follows the market. Actually, the market went up 15K. So then you might say, okay, that makes sense. Like, that's how we deal with the price. But you might also say, hey, I think the second house was nicer. And yeah, I think, like, I think how to explain it. Like, maybe that second house was actually worth 15 more to begin with. You can kind of compare. You can be like, okay, well, it sold for 15K more. Hopefully, if they were both similar in condition, then you're like, okay, it just went up 15K, no problem. But if you see, like, maybe the value from fourth quarter went down into the first quarter, you might say, hey, we want to be actually below those 495 prices. We want to be a little bit below that because this went up in the first quarter. I kind of think you're like, okay, the November and the January one, we've probably come up since then, right? So that would give us a little bit of the courage to go up to say 500K. Whereas if this pointed down, we might say, oh, I think we might actually, the only reason it sold for more was actually because it was nicer. And we need to be a little more conservative on pricing. Maybe we lean into like a 485 or even a 480 to make sure that we're able to get it sold. Does that make any sense at all? Yes. Perfect. Thank you. Okay. So anyways, that's super helpful. The other thing that you can do, and this, sometimes it'll tell a story that makes sense, especially if, let's say that someone bought a house in January of 23, let's say 21. Let's say they bought it in the second quarter of 21. Sometimes when there's a lack of comps, I'll pull this up because I'm like, man, if I had a million comps, it wouldn't matter how the market went over the years. I would just pull the comps, price it based on that. But if there's not a lot of comps, like in our case, there's really not a lot of comps. I'll say, okay, their house was worth 470, or the median price was 470 in Eagle Mountain in the second quarter of 2021. And then I'll go over here to this last quarter of 516, and you can see prices went up about 46,000, which is about 10%, right? We're up about 10% from there. So you can just kind of look and say, oh, well, I have a good comp in second quarter of last year, and it was at, so let's say that one was at 530. You might say, okay, well, if we had sold then, it would have been that. But now, because we're further along in the year or further along in time, maybe now it's only 516. Like maybe we're going to drop it down a little bit. And you obviously would do it in proportion, but you can just kind of look at it. And this speaks a lot to sellers, because this seller that you're trying to sell their house for 516, they at one point had a house that was worth 578. Possibly. This is just a median, but they likely went up in value quite a bit. Then they came down in value quite a bit. These were COVID type increases. And then in the second quarter of 2022, we had interest rates come up substantially in like May. That brought all the prices down to maybe a bottom right here. In this says they had a bottom in the fourth quarter of 2023, and then it's come up, and then it's gone down, and then it's gone back up. But this is an easier story for a seller to chew on. If they're just like, hey, my house was worth 578, that's what I want out of it. But you show them this graph and you say, hey, it was because we went up so high, we came down so low, and now we've actually climbed up out of it. That's a more compelling story of price for the seller, where they're like, oh, that makes sense. Like it does move up and down. We got some good gains. We had some losses. We've recovered from some of those, and here we are. So hopefully that makes some sense. I'm going to show one other thing, and then I promise I'll be done. That's if you keep these other two colors on here, you're going to see something very interesting. This is something that I would write down, get used to running, but there's kind of something interesting happening in the market. And I don't say this to scare you, but I think it's important to know. If you look at this, so this green line is total numbers of homes listed. So this says 92 were listed in the fourth quarter of 2024. And then 164 were listed in the first quarter of 2025. That's pretty much on par with last year. Not too crazy. It is high compared to 2023. So you can kind of compare. This is the first quarter of 21, 148. So you can kind of compare. But the big story to me is that home listings went up. So more homes hit the market. And then when you look at the amount of homes that sold, you see how like in 2021, you see our listings actually dropped in the first quarter, and our solds dropped, but they kind of dropped together. Then you can go to the next one. In 2021, the fourth quarter of 2021, we actually increased in the first quarter of listings listed, but we also see that increase of listings sold. So you can just see like this one actually kind of spread a little bit, because listings sold went down and active listings went up. But you see this is kind of a soft spot in the market too. But when you look at the most recent numbers, so we were right, these two lines were crossing right here almost. And then you see our listings spiked and our solds actually went down. Where normally on most years, you'll see they're actually starting to trend up. They actually went down. So we've got more homes on the market and less homes that are actually being sold. If you go back further, like I've ran these back to like 2008, you can see usually they spread like that. What that means is it's leaning more towards a buyer's market. There's more options for buyers to look at. there are fewer homes going under contract. So those sellers are having to be more aggressive with pricing. They're having to offer concessions. So that's just something to look at. So even when you can just see how over the last 2 years, it's been pretty much they follow each other. These lines follow each other. But when they split like this, it kind of means, a softer market for sellers, and they're going to have to be more aggressive with pricing homes. So, and we've seen that, right? We've had to be very aggressive with the way we priced homes. So, anyways, this is one of those graphs that you can show a seller and it'll help them see, like, okay, here it's all following, here it splits. That's not a good sign for you. Let's make sure we have it priced appropriately because houses are still selling, but let's make sure that we're priced appropriately, um, so that we can actually get your home sold. So you can run this in any market for all of Utah or for a specific city or county, but really helpful. So, anyways, hopefully that was helpful for you guys. I know I went through a lot of stuff there. Any comments or questions that you have for me?
Hey Nick,
Yeah.
quick question. So that last one, do you show that to the sellers, that graph?
Yeah, especially if it shows this, most every place will show that same story. Like I looked at it through Salt Lake, Utah County. So if that's the story that, like, I look at it first, if it shows a story that makes sense, then do show it to them. Like I do show that to my sellers. I get rid of the price because that's the one they'll care about. If you show price, that's the only one they'll watch. But if you show those listings and solds, you can really show them. I mean, it's a pretty, and in Eagle Mountain, it's not as bad. In Salt Lake, it's way worse, of a more extreme split like that. And so, yeah, I tell them that just because, when we're trying to price, in some markets, we're going to lean high, and in some markets, we're going to lean low. The seller is always going to want to lean high, right? Like they'll see the comps and then they're like, oh, let's go a little higher than that. But if you show them this is how I say, hey, we could go high, but in this market, we're going to want to go the other direction, or we may not be the one that sells.
Cool, thanks. So you don't show them the median price graph?
Like, I might show them that too. Like it's not like I would hide it from them or anything, but it
Okay.
just depends if it's something that's like, what would they get from it? We can even look. What would they get from it? We can kind of check it out. So, what would they get from this? I do think it's helpful. And now that you ask and I'm looking at it, I usually print out both. I just print them out separately. So, yeah, because this shows, especially if I've got comps that are older or whatever, I'll use this, but also just to show them because if they bought their house long ago, like 2015, they're not going to be mad about the price, right? They're going to understand. But they still may have thought that there was a peak. They still might have said, "Oh, well, I heard my house was worth 625." And you're like, "Well, it probably was because you can see things peaked right here halfway through 22, but now we're, 60 grand, 62 grand below that." So, it's nice to show them kind of this roller coaster that they've been on so that they can be like, "Oh, that makes sense. It was that, but it's not that anymore." I think it helps them feel like, oh, okay, now I know how the market was. We were writing it up, we were writing it down, and now we've recovered some.
Cool, thanks.
Yeah, it kind of will show them, like you'll show them at the bottom, like what was the bottom was 483 and now we're at 516. It's like, hey, we've come up some because had you asked me to sell your house a year ago, you would have got 30,000 less. So,
Yeah, I think that's awesome because I think, I don't know, a lot of people I've talked to, I feel like their head is still at COVID prices and they
yeah.
don't like realize that prices have come down a little bit. So
And you won't see it on the news. Like the news never
yeah,
said prices were coming down. They always say prices will come down, but they didn't say prices came down. And we lost about, at the second half of 2022, we lost like between 12 and 15%, depending on where the house was.
yeah,
That's substantial. Like that's big money based
yeah,
on prices,
yeah.
So,
Huh.
yep. Good
Cool,
point.
thanks.
Yeah, of course. Any other questions you guys have? Questions or comments? Okay. Well, I'll get out of your hair. You can reach out to me anytime. And yeah, good luck with everything. See you guys.
Thanks, Nick.
Thanks.
Yeah, of course.